What's up, y'all? It is Tasha. I am back with another review of Married at First Sight, y'all. I'm looking at myself in the camera and I'm like, girl, you look tired. And I am tired. I am always like, when the show first come on at 8 o'clock, I'm like, all right, we got enough energy, we can do it. And as the show goes on, y'all, it completely drains me as the episode goes on, that by the end I am like, oh my God, I have to do this again in 7 days. Just sometimes it just doesn't feel like enough time between the episode for us to recover and then for them to put us through it all over again. All right, anyway. Welcome, y'all. It is Tasha. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping in. If you are new here, hey there. Hit the subscribe button below, like, comment. We have a good time over here. If you are not new, thank you for stopping by again. But I just kind of jumped on in, y'all. But y'all know why we here. You see the thumbnail, you see the title of the video. We here to talk about Married at First Sight, season 14, episode 5, y'all. And to be honest, I really don't know how I feel about the episode tonight. It was long, of course. It was a lot of stuff, but I was like, kind of a lot of filler stuff in there. I don't know for sure how I felt, but we're here. We're going to talk about it. So the episode opens on day 3 of marriage. So all the couples wake up together in Puerto Rico, and everyone except Chris and Alyssa. Chris is waking up alone. Alyssa says, it sucks not waking up to the person, and I thought I'd be waking up to, but I'm still going to be optimistic. Girl, bye. Then we see Lindsay and Mark wake up talking about him eating goldfish. Who cares? The producers ask if they have consummated their marriage, and she starts doing this stupid, childish laugh, and I'm just like, girl, cut it out. And she's like, a woman never kisses and tells. Lindsay, you saying that, you doing all this unnecessary giggling. We already know the answer is yes. Just say it, and we will move on from it just like everybody else. Okay? They say they're going to, make some drinks. And Mark basically says, maybe we shouldn't have so many drinks in a row as we did the day before. And I laugh because I'm like, basically, he's saying you were drunk and you were showing out. So let's not do that again. She says, I was just really tired. And Mark is like, you had 3 bottles of wine. And I'm like, geesh, Lindsay, do we have a problem? Or, were you just a little excited because you were drunk, wedding day, you were drunk again coming into the honeymoon, so we watching you. Michael then brings Jasmine a coffee and food in bed, and she is still hella tired. She's like, I can use a few more hours of sleep, and he is like, I'm ready to go. They talk about the day before with the little disagreement they had, of course, in the last episode about him essentially seeing the glass half empty, she seeing it half full. He's saying he would have liked them to make a little more progress by now with their connection. And he understands that some of that is because he's not very talkative and he is afraid of not putting in 100%. Jasmina thinks he's overthinking because, that's the very first thing on his mind this morning. And she says he's going to be the one to ruin this experience if he cannot get out of his own head. She also cannot stop thinking about what the sister said to him, of course, about him just kind of always planning for the worst to happen. He basically says he's afraid to mess up, and every moment of getting to know her is crucial, and maybe he is overthinking it in a sense to not mess up. And I'm like, the two of you are exhausting, and I'm already tired of talking about this topic at this point. You both think differently. Let's see how we can, make that come together and move on, for the love of God. So back to Alyssa. She's still complaining about not waking up to her husband as if it's anyone's fault but her own. She says she keeps thinking about why this is happening to her. Like, why is this happening to me? Girl, what? Chris is waking up, walking around this hotel room with bare feet. Oh, I cannot stand that. I'm sorry, y'all. I was like, oh my God, put some socks, some slippers, some slides, put something on, sir. But he says that she thinks he is disrespecting her because they have disagreements, and he thinks that she views disagreements as disrespect. And I'm like, I see where you going, Chris, and you trying to reason with it. But no, she just don't like you. Point blank in the period. He says he isn't happy, but he hasn't given up hope yet because, maybe he just hasn't painted a good picture. And I'm like, Chris, you could be Picasso and the picture still ain't gonna be good enough for Alyssa. Okay. Over to Steve and Noi. They just keep looking so cute together, y'all. And it is taking everything in me not to get drawn into them being cute and everything, because y'all know how this turns out. So I'm not really getting invested in these couples like that. But Noi said, they haven't gotten it in yet, but she wouldn't be surprised if it happened sooner rather than later. Steve says he would love to find a campground on the beach and, just wake up there and just be out there in the elements. And Noi's like me. She's like, camping? Yeah, no. Don't take me there because I like showers and I like toilets. And we see each other, Noi. I ain't here for it either. Olajuwon and Katina, they're waking up together. He says, he just loves that his wife just wakes up smiling at him. I don't even think she realized it, but she just wakes up smiling at me. And I just, I'm happy that she just wakes up smiling at me. Olajuwon, boy, fall back. She says he still can't get his cuddle game right. She over here still trying to be cute, sleeping in makeup, lashes, and a wig. They talk about him being sweaty at night, and honestly, this whole scene just could have been left out. The couples are now headed out for the day, and Lindsay and Mark are going to make pina coladas. Lindsay gets a brain freeze and acts like a 10-year-old. Mark the shark then gets behind the bar and makes some drinks for them, and he is having a good time, and I think this is like Mark in his element. He done put his shades on, little apron on. He is ready to go, and she's like, oh, I see I'm going to have to class him up a little bit. Lindsay, you classing somebody up? With what class are you going to class someone else with when you don't have class yourself? Questions that need answers. He asks about her dating history. She says she has dated every engineer in the book at this point. Says they're all cheaters, lies, and stealers. Any engineers? How y'all feel about this? She's just calling y'all out. Mark says he didn't meet his first love until after college, and things got rough because she was drinking a lot. Hint, hint, Lindsay. Then the one person he dated about a year ago, he said that she explained how the last guy she was with basically kind of treated her like shit after she said she was pregnant by him. And he just really couldn't believe that men are just out here treating women this way. And I'm like, yeah, Mark, there are plenty of women that have plenty of horror stories about trash men. Take a ticket, get in line. Lindsay says it sounds like he's a people pleaser and he thinks about everyone but himself sometimes. And he thinks he's met a lot of people with rough pasts, and just meeting him is like a breath of fresh air. She says she wants him to make sure that he is there for himself first, and she wants to make sure she is honoring his needs with her. And I'm like, so does a part of this mean, him constantly apologizing on your behalf like he did the day before? Like, what does that mean exactly? Break it down for us, Lindsay. We then see Noi and Steve. They're dressed up super cute together to go on a cute little picnic. She says they have emotionally bonded and she is attracted to him and is comfortable being around him and kissing him and all that good stuff. Steve says they've had a great start and they have had a lot of laughs. They both laughed because they were both super nervous about, so what's going to happen when we got to go poop and we got to poop, with that other person there. I get it, but y'all, before you know it, y'all will be pooping with the door open with each other. Just give it some time. She says she hasn't dated anyone that she's felt disconnected with so early on, and she feels like she's falling in love. And I'm like, Noi, girl, it's been 3 days. It's been 3 days. She sits down and talks to him and tells him about the questions that she was asked by a producer. And she's like, so they asked if I was, in love or how I was feeling. And I told them, I was slowly falling in love with him. And he's like, thank you. I think we can both agree we have really strong feelings for each other. And in this moment, she acted like she was a little bit disappointed. And again, I'm like, no, it's been 3 days. It'll be different if this was year 3 and you were telling him this and he was just like, thanks, buddy. Yeah, got strong feelings for you too. It's been 3 days. It's been 3 days. Katina and Olajuwon go to the gym together. Basically, he trains her and acts like she asked for this and he's getting on my nerves. Back to poor Chris. He is still trying and really planning an activity for them to go paddleboarding. She says despite everything that has happened, she's trying to be the bigger person because she doesn't want the negativity or the drama. And I'm like, but Alyssa, you are the negativity and the drama. So you don't want to be around yourself? Essentially, that's what you're saying. Because I did watch the after show last week. Yeah, I cannot watch them on the same night. 2 hours is long enough. I cannot stay up another hour and then watch that show and then maybe try to include it in the review. It just seemed too much. But we know you're the negativity and the drama. You couldn't even stay in the hot seat for the few questions that Keisha asked you last week before you had to walk away because I'm not doing this. I'm not doing this. We're not doing this. Okay, girl. But she's just really getting on my nerve because she really, truly thinks she is taking the high road. And she is like, she's the elite person and the better person in this situation. And I'm like, girl, that is so far from the truth. Oh, my God. So they paddleboard. And, of course, she's kind of like a pro because she's done this a lot. He laughs and, you know, she just keeps falling off the board. And I think, you know, he's just trying to impress her by trying to stand up on the board, knowing that he's struggling. She just continues to laugh. And I'm like, Steven just like a puppy with a new toy. Like, she's laughing. She's having a good time. So let me just keep doing whatever I'm doing to make her laugh and have a good time. Even if it's embarrassing myself. Let me just keep doing it. But he says, you know, I think, you know, spending time together is good. And he says he thinks, you know, I think she's a fun, loving, enjoyable person to be around. And I'm like, where? Where, Chris? Because the rest of us here don't see whoever this person is you're trying to get us to see. So, you know, they get off the boards, they sit down and talk, and he says he doesn't think he did a good job he doesn't think he did a great job of doing all he could to get her to understand that he thinks she's a cool person, and he apologizes. And I'm like, Jesus, here we go with this man apologizing again for something he did not do. Anyway, she's like, well, thank you. I appreciate that. I just want us to, you know, come off united because, you know, just no matter how we feel, the experts just didn't get it right. You know, they just didn't get it right. It's okay. She is doing everything she can to pretty much make it crystal clear to this man without outright saying it that we ain't going no further. We are going to end in divorce. And it might be as soon as we get back to Boston. But this is not happening, sir. In case it ain't clear, it ain't happening. She then says she went to go see a psychic. And they told her that she would meet her soulmate. They kind of talked about, you know, his build and his physical. And the person would just have very pretty eyes. They would have an eagle tattoo. And me and Chris could do nothing but laugh because I'm like, girl, you sound and you looking crazy out here. And I don't understand why she has such high expectations as if she is around here looking like Miss US of A. Like, girl, you might be a smooth 6 on a good day. So I don't understand why you think that you are not deserving of Chris. Alyssa, get over yourself, girl. Michael and Jasmine spend some time at the pool and at the bar. She says that, you know, him being in his head will bring negativity into their relationship. So they address the conversation again that they had earlier. She asks him if what his sister said, you know, about him affected his last relationship. He says, you know, he's been single for a while because he felt like he wasn't putting in 100% effort into the people that he was dating. And he thinks he was overthinking because he doesn't want to make the same mistake. He says he's trying to make sure the person knows he's putting in 100% effort. So maybe on the days where he doesn't or can't, or just maybe it doesn't seem like he's putting in all the effort, that the person clearly knows how he feels about them. She asks if there was something that triggered him to be this way. He really talks about all the death that he has dealt with. So really his first time seeing death was his brother. And I think he said he was 6 or 7 years old, like seeing it in front of his eyes. He talks about, you know, his friends passing away, his mom, his dad, his grandmother. Like he's had a real rough upbringing. So Jasmina is like, I think we just look at it differently. He kind of looks at it as if, because I've dealt with all this, I'm just not sure when somebody is going to leave. So I kind of already prepare for it. And she says that she would look at it, and maybe some other people would look at it, as basically living life to the fullest, because you never know what may happen. But again, I think these two are just thinking about things completely different, but in a sense trying to get the other one to come around to how they think. And I'm just like, I just don't know if that's going to happen. So I just want y'all to leave it alone, because we just keep talking about it. And I'm getting tired of talking about it. So next, all the couples get together on the bus, and Lindsay and Mark join them this time because she ain't showing out. And Olajuwon shares that Lindsay actually sent him a DM on IG and apologized for her behavior. They all go on a catamaran ride, and they talk about what they learned about each other so far. Of course, Olajuwon has to ask if anybody has consummated their marriage. And of course, Lindsay starts with this dumb laughing again and basically tells on her and Mark. And I essentially think, I'm like, she's just happy that she can say, you know, well, we were the first and nobody else has done it, but we have. And I feel like that's what Lindsay's aim is here. Noy and Steve say they'll be keeping things private, and y'all know every season is always that one couple that's like, we're not gonna say anything, we're just gonna keep everything private between us because it's nobody's business. But you're on a TV show, ho. I'm just playing. So all the boys go off together, and then the ladies hang out on the boat. So Noy shares that, you know, she is slowly falling in love with him. And she's like, and he just said thank you. And it kind of made her feel some kind of way. Steve is on the other side telling the guys about what happened. And he said it scared him a little because, you know, they just got married a few days ago. And I'm like, same thing the rest of us are saying, Steve. Pump your brakes, Noy. Michael then asks the guys how they find the balance to go with the flow and not going too fast. And Steve says, you just have to feel it. And then when you feel like you are just going right above that edge and doing too much, you got to pull back and then maybe wait for her to start the next big conversation. And I'm like, look at Steve giving away free gems. He might not have no real job, but y'all might need to be taking some notes from what he's saying, okay? Olajuwon then talks about him and Katina going to the gym. And he said he purposely did a hard exercise at the gym to her earlier, really something he wouldn't even enjoy, and he wanted to do it to see if she would speak up, and she did, and I completely loved it. And I was like, Olajuwon, ain't nobody got time for the games. Get out of our face with this. Lindsay then asks Alyssa about, you know, her first day, and as soon as she does, Katina says, here we go, and she kind of says it under her breath. And I'm like, so I think these other couples been chatting it up off camera, and they already know what's going down between the two of them. And of course, Lindsay don't care about her mouth, so she just gonna let it fly. Alyssa says, you know, we just want to move forward and make the best of the situation. And I think we've come to a good place. And I'm like, girl, what? Then Lindsay is like, what? Excuse me? Like, just so I'm clear, like, she's trying to get clarity. And Alyssa's like, let's move on to something else. And I'm like, I'm sure that's a little shade because Lindsay and Alyssa really don't have the greatest relationship. And I'm sure Alyssa just don't want to talk about it. So she want to get herself out of the hot seat. Lindsay says she thinks she's in love. Back on the guy's side, Mark says that, you know, her energy is a lot for him and says, you know, he'll reel her back in when he has to, but eventually she just has to stop. And I'm like, same thing I was saying, Mark, like, you just can't always be the savior. At some point, she has to realize what she is doing and stop doing those things. Okay, Lindsay? All right. She's going to wear this poor man out. Lindsay then talks to the girls about her history and how Olajuwon treated her, as if she didn't trigger the conflict. And Lindsay's like, well, there's three sides to every story. As you know, Katina tries to start talking to her. Jasmine, child, she's looking off into the abyss to the side like, I ain't even got no parts, but I want to be here to listen. But I ain't engaging in this foolishness because I see where this is going, okay? Katina walks off to take a breather, and Alyssa follows her and tells her, you know, just sit on the other side because, you know, it's just not worth it. And again, we know these two don't care. Alyssa and Lindsay don't care for each other. So, of course, Alyssa was going to be on Katina's side because she's going against Lindsay. So Katina tells her that, you know, she's apologized to her husband, but basically, boo, let's get one thing straight. I ain't my husband. I don't care what happened to you when you were 2, 3, or 4 years old. You 35 years old and you need to deal with it, okay? Period, poo. And Katina says, she basically plays the victim. She acts like a 5-year-old and just pokes the bear and is like, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. And then when the person has a reaction, she gets upset and plays the victim as if, but what did I do? I see that. I see exactly that Lindsay can be that person. So Katina, we are here, girl. We see each other. And then Lindsay says, well, that is rude. And she's like, where are you rude? And Lindsay, of course, does the whole white woman thing and smile and tries to be funny. Like, well, they say everybody has an opinion. It's like an asshole. We all have one. Blah, blah, blah. Girl, ain't nobody playing with you. You acting like you want the smoke. And I don't think you do, okay? Because don't get it, I believe Katina, if Katina and Lindsay had an altercation with the blows, Jasmina, I'm sure gonna have her back, and Alyssa probably gonna get a couple licks in as well, just cause she don't like her. Katina then walks off again and doesn't finish talking to her, and Alyssa follows her, and Jasmina really tries to get Lindsay to understand what is going on. She's like, you say that triggered you, and I have really no problems with you, but I'm trying to get you to understand where she's coming from. If you're saying it was a trigger, but you caused that trigger. You could have stopped at any point, but you just kept going. And I think Lindsay is not understanding that. She just wants to place the blame on someone else other than herself. But boo, it was you. Lindsay, and I'm just like, Lindsay, if you close your mouth sometimes, you won't have the problems that you have. Simple as that. Your daddy has said it multiple times, and he's known you your whole life. Keep your mouth closed. As Nene, keep your legs closed, Mary. Keep your mouth closed. We won't have these problems. It is that simple, Lindsay. So now she has to talk to Mark. And it's funny that as she's telling Mark what happened, she says she's offended by the way Katina said things and how it made her feel. But she can't identify that you did the exact same thing in your tone and how you made someone feel. But you can't put 2 and 2 together and realize you are a reflection of what you're complaining about right now. You're doing the same thing. Okay, Lindsay. And Mark is like, yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's how you say things. So going forward, we'll keep our mouths closed and mind our own business. And I am just liking Mark more and more as these episodes go on, because he is not falling for her BS while he is being, on her side, Team Lindsay. He is not just being a yes man to her and acting like everything that she's saying is okay. No, he's letting her know, and he's like, all right, how are we going to do better next time? All right, let's move forward. So they play the game Never Have I Ever. I feel like we've done this every season for the past few seasons. We learned Jasmina was arrested in high school. A few of them have gone skinny dipping. A few of them have cheated, including Steve and Noe. Noe's like, we don't have to talk about that. But I'm like, Noe, you put your fingers down too, girl. So what is that about? Olajuwon asks if anyone. So first of all, before I even get in what he said, he still got a finger up, and they trying to get a question off before the boat actually docks. And he's like, somebody got a good question. Somebody got a good question. He's saying it as if I got a good question. Pick me, pick me, pick me. So they ask him, so what's the question that you have? So he's like, so has anyone messed around with a family member of someone they already messed around with? And everybody's looking at him, including me, like, no, you by yourself. And he's like, yeah, so I messed with a mother and daughter. And I'm like, ew. Okay, Olajuwon. I could have gone the rest of my life, and I believe everyone else on that boat could have gone the rest of their life without knowing that information. Some things you just don't share. Some things you just go to the grave with and you don't share. If you know and the other 2 people know, that's all the people in this entire world that needs to know Olajuwon. Okay? Oh, gosh. But he keeps going and then asks if you would have a threesome if your spouse offered. And everybody is like, nope, ain't happening. And he says if Katina offered him another woman, as if she would just serve up another woman on a platter to him, he would not deny it. And again, I'm like, Isaac, because I'm calling you Isaac, read the room. Nobody asks for that information and nobody cares. Just close your mouth. Yeah, take a note from what Mark just told Lindsay and just close your mouth. Thank you. Steve and Noah have a cute little dinner by the beach. They seem to be connecting very naturally. She talks about her feelings for him again, and he said, you know, I felt you were kind of unhappy with my response earlier when we talked about it. And again, I said that because I thought she was feeling some kind of way also. And he's like, you know, based on how things are going, there's potential, but I want to give it to the space that it deserves. And I agree. Cut it out, Noah. And you basically said, you know, I share my feelings, you know, very openly and freely. I'm like, that's fine, girl, but you can't expect everybody to act how you act, okay? All right. She then goes back to the Never Have I Ever game and talked about, you know, they both said they cheated. She says hers happened when she was about 18 or 19. And she says it was really heartbreaking to really see how she could hurt somebody else so badly. And Steve said it happened for him around the same time and he felt the exact same way. So it seems they both have learned from their experience and it is not a red flag for either of them. We are now on day 4 of marriage and Jasmina and Michael are having breakfast, and he says that they had a discussion with the group the day before about consummating their marriage. So in this scene, Jasmina is talking to us by herself in a confessional, and they keep flipping back and forth between her talking and then him doing pull-ups, not skipping arm day at the gym, okay? But she says they were talking, and Michael says that the day before in the Catamaran that she cut him off as they were having the conversation when Olajuwon asked if they had consummated the marriage. Of course, production is always going to come with the receipts. So they flash back to the scene and he started talking. And as he was talking, he looks over in her direction. And as he does, he takes a break in his statement as if he was looking for her to say something or he was done, and she inserted like one sentence and he agreed, and that was the end of it. So I didn't see where she cut him off either. But she says, you know, he was telling her that, you know, she did it. I was there. You did it. It happened. And if I know you did it because I was there, you need to apologize. And I'm like, excuse me, sir. You was there and I was there too. So what makes what you saying so much more believable than what I'm saying? You better get it together, Michael. She says she isn't going to apologize because she didn't do that. And she is annoyed and angry at his tone because he's being very disrespectful to her. She says that she isn't sure what is going to happen because she does not want to speak to him in this moment. She doesn't want to be in the room with him. And she does not want to be married to him right now. And I am like, Michael, you about to pretty much self-sabotage the marriage. Katina and Olajuwon head out to dinner together. They talk about what happened the day before with her and Lindsay. She said she wasn't going to say anything to Lindsay because, you know, her and Olajuwon had already talked about just squashing it. But she brought it up around her. And before Katina could even finish the dang on story, Olajuwon is like, yeah, I know she was, you know, playing the victim, right? Her own husband, you know, said she was drinking on the plane. He didn't know what to do with her. He's like, yeah, let's just not get that in energy. We just need to move forward. And I'm like, Olajuwon, let the girl talk. Stop trying to over talk her and say that you just need to move forward. Let her get it out. She was trying to tell you what happened. Be quiet. Then he says he married the right woman because she had his back even without him being there. And I'm like, pipe down. You married her because the experts paired y'all together, not because she would have y'all back when you weren't in the room. Shut up, Isaac. They talk about his Isaac stories from back in the day. And he really don't want to go into it because, you know, it's his past. And she said she's not really bothered by, you know, what he's saying and the things he said earlier that day. And I'm like, Katina, if you say so, girl, but that whole sleeping with a mother and a daughter, it's a little sketch. And I got a problem with that if it was me. So he reassures her that, you know, being vulnerable with her is easy. He has found his queen because he's so vulnerable with her. He's even deleted his IG for her. And I'm like, she ain't asked you to do that. Deleting your IG was for you so that you won't be tempted to answer the DMs as Isaac, okay? That is not for Katina. He says she just brings so much joy even without the sex. So he just wants to get to know her mentally before the physical. And he just knows kind of once all that kind of gets into play, the physical pretty much going to be on and popping. And at this point, he just keeps talking. And I'm pretty sure his ADHD has kicked in at this point because he's acting like he did at the reception. Okay. Alyssa and Chris then go to eat and they are trying to do a whole nother activity. This man is still excited to be around her. And I'm like, Chris, You are killing me softly. Please just stop giving this lady any energy. As he is talking about the activity that they plan to do, which is like, I guess, like a mixture between scuba diving and snorkeling, I think it is. She's like, well, I'll just watch you and you can tell me about it. So essentially, she ain't gonna do it. She says that, this is the first time I've seen him with the shirt off as they're getting him ready to do the activity. She's like, I'm not gonna, hurt anybody's feelings, but, he just isn't my type physically. And maybe you ain't his type physically because you ain't cute either. And your attitude is just making you so much more uglier, Alyssa. Like, girl. And I'm just like, how you mean you don't have a problem hurting his feelings? You ain't did nothing but hurt his feelings since you walked down the aisle, ma'am. So she leaves him to do the activity alone, and she ends up leaving the area in general, and she goes to eat. And the producer is like asking her kind of what she wants to do. And she's like, well, there's, nothing really to do but, paddleboard. And we've already done that. And the producer's like, well, what else do you want to do? And she's like, well, leave here. And I guess she's talking about leave the resort. And I'm like, but before y'all even went, and he was talking about, or either when they was right before they left or when they got there, he was talking about wanting to go sightseeing and wanting to go shopping. And she was just like, no, she would just rather sit out at the beach. Girl, which one do you want? Because you're not making no sense. In an effort to try to just not be around this man and lie and be around a bush, you're not making no sense because you're contradicting yourself. Oh, gosh. Anyway, she's continuing to get on my nerves. Chris is at least trying to have a good time, although he's like, I didn't want to do the activity alone, but he made the best of it. So then as the producer is still talking to her, she gets emotional and says she is mad at her mom because she called her mom and said that I just don't want to go swimming with him. I'm not comfortable. It just isn't meant to be. We went paddleboarding, but that was different because I didn't have to be next to him. And I'm like, girl, do you hear how you sound? Do you hear how you sound at this moment? Paddleboarding was fine because you didn't have to be next to him. You sound so disgusting, Alyssa. Like, y'all, she making it real hard to keep watching this show because she gets on my nerve. The way she is treating this man and the way she is behaving on top of it and playing the victim, y'all, it is driving me insane. And we are only on episode 5. Oh my gosh. Anyway, she then says that her mom is like, you just need to do it, Alyssa. Like, stop being so selfish. She's worried about how I'm going to come off, on TV. And I'm like, Mama, you don't need to be worried about how we going to view her on TV because we saw right through her on episode 1. She then says, I have literally been the nicest to everyone. And I'm like, I hate to see when you mean to someone. And my mom is just saying, I'm just being difficult, and she is just mad because everybody else here having a good time and she just isn't happy. I'm just not happy. We don't care, Alyssa. We don't care. So as she's doing all this, we see Chris is finished with the activity and he is walking towards her and she's like, please tell him do not come over here. I do not like him. Girl. Between her and Chris from Atlanta season, they really competing to be who can be the meanest person on Married at First Sight because they running neck and neck at this point, okay? I really want Chris just to not speak to her anymore. Over to Noah and Steve, child, they in the pool together. Steve saying Noah looks hot. They can't stop kissing each other. Basically, they gonna end up getting it in after the fact. They get out the pool. You can tell. It's written all over their face. Let's move on. Back to Jasmina and Michael. They're pretty much having an awkward dinner together. He's hoping the dinner will ease some of the tension. He asks, if there's any expectations for him as her husband. And she says, well, yeah, I expect you to treat me with respect. Let's start there. She says she told him, she is sorry. He felt that way earlier. And he's like, that's not an apology for you to say, sorry how I made you feel. And they're just different in that regard of it's an apology for her. He doesn't consider that. Let's move on. She says he wants her to apologize to him how he wants it. And she's not going to do that. And I'm just like, they're just going to continue to struggle because they're both, even on, I feel like on some minor things, they're really both passionate about how they feel And it seemed to be difficult for either of them to bend, which is going to be very difficult to have a successful marriage if nobody can bend and be genuine about it. Because, I mean, after this, Michael's like, okay, so we can agree to disagree, but going forward, you know, whenever you apologize, I'm going to accept your apology however you have it laid out. And I felt in the moment he was being a bit passive aggressive, and I think Jasmina felt that as well. So that's what I'm saying of, if you can't really do any bending and shaking and compromising for the other person and genuinely mean it, I don't know if y'all gonna make it. She also told him she had a problem with his delivery. He apologizes because he said this is something he's had an issue with. You know, his sisters told him, his friends has told him, other relationships, and he's really been working on it. He wants to nip it in the bud immediately. And while I am happy he has acknowledged it and he knows it is an issue, I am also tired of these people coming on the show saying something that they know is a problem that they're still working on, and they still exhibit it as a problem. What are y'all doing to work on these problems other than saying I'm working on it? Lindsay and Mark are on a date, dinner on the beach. Mark says that, you know, the wedding was a lot. The issue that, you know, occurred on the plane and the whole argument with Katina was a lot. He says he's just trying to digest everything because, you know, a lot has happened, and now he kind of just wants to go slow in the process because it's a fast process, but yet he wants it to flow organically. I ain't gonna lie, Mark was talking in circles a little bit, but I don't like Lindsay, so I don't care. He says he feels, you know, slow and steady wins the race. And I'm like, well, Mark, y'all have kind of gone from 0 to 104 days because you already consummated the marriage and everything. She's darn near in love with you. And I think he does like her almost as much as she likes him. But I think he's more so afraid from what he's seen that he's like, oh, let me not get all in and pump the brakes a little bit just in case this doesn't end up working out for me, that I'm okay to walk away after this is all over and still, you know, be okay emotionally and mentally. We all know once he starts saying this, Lindsay is not happy with it. And she says, you know, well, it's confusing because you're the first one that wants to jump all in. And really, there's no in between for her. It's either all or none. She says, you know, if you want to, you know, us to slow down, then I'm going to need you to be less as well. You know, stop clogging up the toilet, stop chewing with your mouth open, stop passing gas and stuff. I'm like, y'all doing a whole lot in 4 days. She says, you know, if he wants, you know, romance and, you know, taking it slow, then she doesn't need to be seeing all that. She says she's just, you know, matching him a lot of the time. And while I don't care for Lindsay, of course, I do see her point. I think the issue with them is that they're on the same level, but it just looks different for each other. So where his 10 may be farting and just fanning it her way and playing, her level 10 will be farting under the covers and then fanning the covers in the air. You know, same, both of them are level 10. They're just two different level 10s. You feel me? But she said it's confusing because, you know, they had a whole romantic dinner and now he says he wants to pull back. And she's like, why would we consummate the marriage? Why would we be on this romantic dinner? Like, if this is your idea of romance, don't ever plan a romantic dinner for me ever again. Then she says she's ready for bed and she gets up and leaves. Mark says, you know, he thinks that they could have something amazing at the core. Some things just haven't worked out so well right now. They get back to the room and she's pretty much pissed and doesn't want to talk to him. And she's walking around the room, you know, throwing her shoes in the bag and saying she doesn't want to talk and that she's furious, but yet she proceeds to talk to him anyway. Mark says, you know, he's just trying to enjoy the moments that they have with each other without letting everything that has happened outside of that affect him. And she just keeps going on and on at this point. She's just being so annoying because she just wants him to do and say what it is that she wants him to say, and he's not doing that. So I don't think she knows how to maneuver in that space of, I just want him to agree with what I'm saying, you know, come coddle me or, you know, show me some affection as I'm having this temper tantrum so that we can just, you know, ease things over. And Mark isn't doing that. Anyway, he walks out because she's like, well, you can leave. And then she calls him an idiot. And I'm like, Lindsay, here you go, being 5 years old again. The episode kind of wraps up with Katina and Olajuwon getting back to the room, and he has roses and candles out and says, you know, he's filled with joy, and he starts promising her all these things, like he's saying his vows all over again. Promise to protect you, be there for you. This is just a dream come true. He starts to get a little sweat behind the eyes. He says she is his queen. Nobody will ever hurt her. He'll take care of her every single day. And then he starts to give her a foot massage. And I'm like, Isaac is putting it on a little thick right now. And I'm just like, I feel like this is one of Isaac player moves from back in the day. Like, let me just give her everything that she wants to hear and put it on thick. And I'm sure she's going to drop these draws tonight for me. I feel like that's where this whole situation was going. And Katina is just gullible enough that she's just falling for it. So I'm like, I guess all y'all just gonna continue to play in our face for the rest of the night, okay? She starts to cry a little bit in her confessional. No real tears are coming out, but her voice starts to crack. And I'm like, can we just stop with the acting, Katina, at this point? But she's like, I just hope every woman can just, you know, feel what I feel. And I'm like, girl, the rest of us don't want Isaac. You can have that, okay? But anyway, it looks like next week more arguments are going to continue, and Alyssa is going to continue to be a bitch and try to convince us that she is a good person. I hope we are kind of let out of our misery, including Chris being let out of this whole situation next week. Like, I really don't care to see them together on my screen, and really her at all on my screen, because it's ridiculous at this point. And again, he just does not deserve it, y'all. But that was the end of this episode for this week. I am so tired. I feel like I was very low energy this video, but it was exhausting tonight, okay? But please drop down your thoughts in the comments below. Let's chat it up, how we felt about this episode. And I'll catch y'all next week. Peace.